Good evening, everyone. My name is Baroness Caradwin, and I have Master Lloyd with me. And this is the informational video that we are creating to discuss the proposed charter and bylaws to create the Royal Academy Despé of Atlantia. So, without further ado, the things that we're going to be doing this evening are covered in this slide. We're going to be talking about where we came from to get to this point, a little bit of the background, and we're going to talk about some of the surveys that the Atlantean data team did and the results of those, which informed the work we did on a proposed charter. We're also going to be talking about the draft bylaws and the feedback we've received from those, and some of the polling results for ranking preferences. And then we're going to talk about the ratification process and what will happen if, hopefully, the bylaws are ratified and the Guild is founded by acceptance by their majesties and approval by their majesties at coronation. So let's begin. So the background of this process, what brought this team into being, is that in the times before the pandemic, there were lots of discussions about how the Academy worked, what the Academy Despé was for, and there was a group of some very brave individuals who called themselves the Grassroots Group, who got together and had lots of conversations and had meetings with people. And then the pandemic started, and like many other things, the discussions and the meetings came to a halt. But that didn't mean that there wasn't a need for them. So during the pandemic, when we were starting to open back up, it seemed like the perfect time to begin these discussions again. So I reached out, got some volunteers. Some of the folks who were on the Grassroots Group were part of our volunteer structure, and we got people from all different parts of the kingdom. And we created our all-volunteer Academy process team. And this team was tasked with creating the process to revisit the conversations, to talk to people, to find people to be part of a data team, to survey members of Atlantia's fencing community, find out what we needed, what people wanted, and put that forward into a structure that would work for everyone, whether that was a chartered guild or not. And so that was what the intent of the group was. So we have at all points in this process involved their majesties, the Kingdom Seneschal, and the Kingdom Minister of Arts and Sciences in all of the questions, the discussions, the protocols, and the parameters of this process, because we want to make sure that it's done and it's done right. So the first thing that the process team did was come up with some ideas for the data team to move forward with. And what we wanted to do was reach out to people and make sure that everyone's voice was heard, everyone who wanted to have a say could have a say, and would be able to bring their particular interests forward. So the first survey that we had was really a demographic survey and sort of a census survey, and that was in September of 2021. And then from that survey, the information we found out from that moved forward into a second survey that was sent out in November, and that was about more of issues that needed to be addressed, and the things that people wanted to see in the guild. Because in our results, we did find that people liked the Academy Despé and they wanted it to continue. It was something that people felt had added to their SCA experience. So people wanted to create sort of a formal documentation of how things worked and the processes by which things would happen. So that codification of things would turn into the bylaws. People did like the ranks. They liked ceremony. They liked all the things that the Academy put together, sponsored, ran, supported, celebrating advancement, all of those prizes that are played, all of the tournaments that are sponsored, some events way in the past that were sponsored by the Academy. People liked all of that. People also supported the educational part of the Academie d'Espay. Okay, they wanted there to be a set of curricula that could be accessed at any given point so that people could start wherever they were at in their learning process and move forward from that. And they wanted to make sure, and people also, we found that there were a predominant number of people who wanted the Guild to be independent of the structure of awards in Atlantia. So there is actually a link on your screen that the hour-long Unevent meeting, we presented this at Unevent so that anyone who wanted to come and listen to the findings, ask any questions, could come and do so. We were also going to do that at Kingdom 12th Night, but 12th Night turned virtual, so it was not as easy to do that as it was when we had a spot specifically at Unevent. So please feel free to look at that YouTube link if you want to see the actually nitty-gritty data results. So from this came a proposed charter. Now the charter is something that's really short. It's kind of like a mission statement. It basically takes the core ideals that the Academy stands for and puts it forward. So what would happen is this document would be presented on behalf of the members of the Academy, and we hope that it would be approved by their majesties. It identified, like I said, the core ideal of the Academy, that through practice, scholarship, and camaraderie, we will enhance the experience of those in Atlantia who engage in the noble arts of defense. It also talked about things like training. It talked about getting feedback. It talked about historically informed techniques. It talked about communication. It talked about inclusion, creating ceremony, like I was talking about before. So the charter is only one page because that is what, if ratified, will go forward to their majesties in court to be signed by their majesties, creating us a royal guild. So we move on to the bylaws. So I'm going to turn it over to Master Lloyd now.
All right. About the same time we started writing the charter, we started writing the bylaws. Bylaws being 7 pages long rather than 1 page long. It took us a little longer, but we did have a small team that worked together to create a set of bylaws that were consistent with the findings that we talked about a couple slides ago. That retain the ranks, retain the ceremony, but also added chances for education and added a definition for how things worked that was a little more firm. We drafted that, the 5 of us on the bylaws team, and then we expanded it to about for feedback to the 15 people on the full process team. And then we expanded it and put it out for a 2-week public feedback period. Within that draft set, we had 4 options for the Academie d'Espay rank process. They were proposed, and 46 people responded to that draft set of bylaws with feedback, and they indicated their first, second, third, and fourth choices for the rank options. All of the feedback was reviewed last Friday by the whole team, and most of the feedback resulted in changes to the draft text. It was all very helpful. Thank you very much for your good feedback. It really did help improve and clarify things that we had talked about within the team and thought were clear. And then when we looked at it based on the feedback, we went, oh, that wasn't as clear as we thought it was, and we fixed it. So thank you. The result of the ranked voting process was to select option 1 for the ranks, which was the closest to the pre-bylaws status quo. And you can see full details of the vote with all the votes counted and a link to a spreadsheet with everybody's vote, no names, but everybody's vote. So you can do your own counting if you want to, or in the bylaws intro PDF that will be linked to this video and will be posted to the Facebook page. So you'll have access to that. So I'm going to give you a quick summary of what's in the bylaws, and then you can go read them if you want. But here's the quick overview. We have an executive council that's responsible for the operation of the Academy. It consists of 2 scholars, 1 free scholar, 1 provost, and 1 distinguished provost, which is the title we've chosen for members who hold a Master of Defense. They are elected by members of their own rank. So the provosts have no say in who the scholar representatives are, for instance, and they have alternating 2-year terms. So half the team's elected 1 year and serves for 2 years, and a year from that, the other half of the team is elected and they serve for 2 years. So we have some rollover of expertise, and not everybody's starting over every time we have an election. In addition to the executive council, there are officers that are appointed by the council, and those can be members of the council who want to take on these roles, or they can be other people, depending on how many volunteers they get and what their skills are. So those officers are a bylaws and polling clerk, who maintains the bylaw document and operates the pollings, an activities coordinator who helps plan all of the and coordinate all of the Academy activities, an ombudsman who's like a help desk for the Academy. It's someone that you can contact with any kind of question or problem, and they will probably not solve it themselves, but they'll help you find the right person to talk to get it solved. Now, some of the time they won't be able to do that, but they will try, and that's what their job is, to be that point of contact. And then an information officer who will maintain our rosters, our lists of curricula, those kinds of things, all of the data that needs to be stored for the Academy to work. That's what the information officer will do. So the chosen rank option 1 that was chosen, is very similar to what the status quo is, with a couple of small changes. So we still have a scholar rank. It's available to any authorized fencer in Atlantia. One of the differences for the scholar is that we're encouraging people to have a better understanding of what the Academie de Spey is before they join the Academy. So if you understand what's going on and are interested in joining the Academy, you can join at the event that you authorize. But if you don't have a good understanding of the Academie de Spey at that point, please don't encourage people to join at that point. Give them an explanation of what the Academy is, and let them talk to some other people about what's going on and how cool it is, and then they can join at a later date. The Free Scholar rank represents a progressing fighter, and as before, they need to be recognized, sponsored by 3 provosts or distinguished provosts in order to achieve that rank. The provost rank, we are changing very slightly. It is an accomplished fighter that is holding a grant of arms fencing award from any kingdom, such as a white scarf, bronze ring, golden rapier, etc. Previously, it was only open to people who are members of the Order of the White Scarf, but we're expanding it to be any GOA fencing award. Now, having said that, that does not give someone with a bronze ring an Atlantean white scarf. Those are 2 different things. The Crown is the only one who can award a white scarf, and we are not attempting to do that. We're just recognizing that they're an accomplished fighter within the Academy. And then the distinguished provost is an expert fighter holding the Order of Defense from any kingdom. Finally, we have a new rank called Companion, which is an honorary rank that we give to supporters of fencing. And they may not hold any other Academie de Spey rank. And we're picturing people like water bearers or ministers of the lists, or those kind of people that have given extraordinarily support to us. We want to be able to do something nice and say, we appreciate you. So that's the types of activities that the Academy will be doing, subject to people volunteering and actually accomplishing these things. So please do dive in and volunteer and help make these things happen. The first thing we've always been doing for the last 30 years of the Academy, the informal version of the Academy, are prizes. So these are fencing celebrations of rank advancement within the Academy. A new thing we're adding is the Atlantean Academy of Fence, which is intended to be a wandering event that happens annually, give or take, and around the kingdom. But really what it is it's a name. It's a name that can be assigned to any event that wants to have substantial fencing instruction and wants to have us help them run that fencing instruction, wants to encourage people to come to participate in that instruction. So, Ruby Joust or could apply and say, we have this space, we'd like to have a lot of fencing teaching. We'd like to be known as, or this particular Ruby Joust, we would like to also label it as an Academy offense. And we'd look at what the Executive Council would look at what they were proposing and approve or not that use of the name. Having said that, the group that is sponsoring the event is responsible for all of the funding of the event and gets all the benefit of the funding. The Academy does not have any money, does not provide any funds. We just will provide volunteers and staff to help make the Academy offense happen and be successful. We're also going to try to do more support to local groups. We're going to maintain a list of teachers and facilitate instruction at local practices, and that can be in person or virtual, even though we're moving out of COVID-19 area period, hopefully. It's still difficult for people to travel 8 or 10 hours across the kingdom, and virtual classes, we've shown they can be effective, and we'd like to continue to do them when appropriate. And curricula, we're going to maintain on web space a collection of curricula, including a Rapier 101 core curricula and more specific advanced topics. Our team did develop a draft of that core curricula, which was originally in the rules, and we removed it because we felt it was too specific and didn't want people arguing about it as part of the bylaws. And we will provide that first cut to the new executive committee once they form, and they can proceed with it, update it, do whatever they would like. But they'll have a starting point. One of the most important things I wanted to have in the bylaws was a process for changing or amending the bylaws. So we are not stuck with whatever the 5 or 15 of us came up with. There is a formal process for updating the bylaws in the bylaws. There will be an annual polling on all accumulated change proposals. And any proposal is adopted if more members say yes than no. If you have a tie on a proposal, it fails. Because of this, these baseline bylaws can be easily amended if something isn't working, or changed if the needs of the group evolve. So I hope you will view these as a good starting point that people can work with and accept. And any small issues that you have, you can propose a change. And if people agree with you, it'll happen. And we'll start doing things a little bit differently. So back to Mr. Skerwin.
Okay, so the ratification process is as follows. A request was sent out on March 9th for people to self-identify as wanting to be charter members of this new actually chartered guild, the Royal Academy of Despé of Atlantia. And their majesties were contacted about this because they would be the one who would be approving it or not. And so the ratification votes for both the charter and the bylaws will begin actually as we speak, as you are watching this video, because their majesties have approved the charter and the bylaws to go forward for ratification. We did have the membership rolls open until the ratification vote starts, and then only those people who have identified themselves as members of the Académie d'Espé will be able to vote. We will need a majority of the members to vote yes for the charters or bylaws to be approved by their majesties. And then hopefully after it is approved and the guild is established, then the membership rolls may be open once more for people to join. So there will be their majesties, we've been in touch with their majesties and the Kingdom Seneschal throughout this, as I said, also with the Kingdom Minister of Arts and Sciences, under whom guilds fall in kingdom policy. And they've helped us with some of the planning. They've given us some of the research points that we didn't have access to, as well as the drafting process. They have looked at all of the drafts before they have gone out to the general public. So if we do get an affirmative ratification vote, if we have a majority vote to ratify, then we would present all of the adopted documents to their majesties at their coronation at their final court on April 2nd, 2022. After that happens, the proposing committee, the process team, will solicit volunteers. We'll ask for volunteers for candidates for the executive council, and do the pollings for each rank, as was explained by Master Lloyd, to select those representatives. And then once everyone is elected and that structure is put in place, the executive council will take office and the Academy process team will dissolve. So the process will be, it'll be an up or down vote, which means you will vote yes for the charter or no for the charter, yes for the bylaws or no for the bylaws, and then we will move forward from there. So, and I would like to take a moment to thank everyone who has been on the process team and the data team. These are some long hours, a lot of work, and the bylaws are a really, really good starting place. And I think that having a mechanism within them for that to change is a fantastic thing, because as our game changes, as our kingdom changes, we need to be able to have the Academy change to meet the needs of the members of our kingdom. So, Master Lloyd, do you have any final remarks?
No, please read through the bylaws and vote promptly, so that we have a good representation of the membership and can have a good valid vote. And I hope we'll be able to proceed from here on out.
Excellent. And I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but the vote will be open for 1 week. It will open on March 23rd and it will close on March 30th. So it will be a 1 week turnaround time for the vote. So thank you all for listening, and please go vote. Good night.